Hey folks, I wanted to try out something a little bit new and do a video update for you instead of my usual written out update. I've been slacking off a little bit lately. You haven't seen quite as many Future Here Now posts as I try to generally create, and that's because I've been in multiple cities having multiple conversations and doing multiple kinds of training. I've taught for the American Planning Association on online and effective public engagement. I have done a session for economic developers on using the foundational skills of future ready thinking to anticipate and prepare for how their industry is changing. And I've had hundreds of conversations with fascinating people from neighborhood organizers to national leaders around all of these questions about how we live and work today, knowing that our future is going to be so different from our past. One of the analogies that I sort of hit on as I was preparing to talk to the economic development community was the idea of dragging our anchor. So I've often struggled to explain that point about the having an understanding intellectually of how the world is changing, and I often joke that that's kind of a Captain Obvious moment. I think Captain Obvious predated Hotels.com, but I'm not sure. But if we just see those sentences laid out, things like mediated information, Tom Brokaw's of the world telling us what to think, to the near frictionless information we have today, it's like, well, yeah, obvious. But the thing that we do that I think is so fascinating and frankly causes a lot of our problems is that we are sailing in a new direction, we think, in our brains, but we're also dragging an anchor. So if you picture a boat and it's a sailboat or a motorboat, doesn't matter which for this, and you change the direction that you're going and you're ready to hit the gas and move, if you're dragging your anchor, you're not going to move very fast. In fact, you're going to move fairly slowly, and chances are you can't see it, but at the bottom of the body of water, you're tearing up all the all the plants and all the animal habitats. So you're causing a lot of damage as well. That's the piece that gets us in trouble. We may intellectually know that the world has changed in this manner, but our assumptions, our systems, like even something as basic as how we talk to our employees, that can all be dragging an anchor. And that anchor dragging not only makes us less effective, but it ruins what's around us as well. It damages what's around us as well. So we have to be very intentional about not only changing direction intellectually, but in making sure that we have pulled up that anchor, that we have understood our assumptions and our biases and those unspoken, often unwritten things that kind of guide our behavior without us even thinking about it. That's where we drag an anchor. So if we're going to make these transitions, we've got to do it in a very intentional manner. And that's not easy to do because, as I mentioned to the economic developers, we're hardwired to do the opposite. We're hardwired as people who used to have to run away from mastodons to take shortcuts. And very often those shortcuts are us dragging our anchor. So as you look at what comes out of Future Here and Now over the course of the next, few weeks or months, I hope you'll think about that. That it's not just about, okay, intellectually we know that we need to do this thing differently, but it's about understanding where we might be dragging our anchor. And we don't have to drag our anchor, but it does take effort to pull that anchor back up into the boat. It takes energy, and it takes stopping what you're doing and taking the time to do that. And a lot of times we don't feel like we can do that. But that becomes absolutely crucial if we're going to really be future ready, if we're going to capitalize on the opportunities that are facing us today. So think about pulling up that anchor. Think about what ways you may intellectually know that you need to do things differently, but where you might still be falling back, you, yourself, and your organization and your community may still be falling back into old habits and old patterns. And take some time to understand that. The Changemakers Workbook helps with that a great deal. It lays out some of these issues and gives you some space to reflect on it. So check it out at wiseeconomy.substack.com. Again, that's wiseeconomy.substack.com. And I hope we'll see you there, because the future's not waiting for us. So it's time for us to go get them. Thanks.